Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today it's time for us to review Super Mario Bros. 35 on the Nintendo Switch. This review was originally written by the seminal Chris Scullion and has been adapted for video by me. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. The original Super Mario Bros. Has been officially re-released no fewer than 19 bloomin' different times over its 35-year history. From graphical updates such as Super Mario All-Stars to handheld upgrades in the form of Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, to various virtual console re-releases and indeed its inclusion on Switch's online NES catalog, if you've somehow not played it by now, you must just actively be avoiding it, or be very young indeed. For the most part, it's played exactly the same way each time. The odd bonus mode or visual tweak aside, fans of the game will know exactly what they're expecting every single time they fork out for the umpteenth port, and they'll enjoy each and every time regardless. With Super Mario Bros. 35, however, Nintendo has overhauled its most famous game, and in doing so, has managed the unthinkable. It's taken an experience that has by and large remained identical for 3.5 decades, and made it feel fresh and exciting all over again. At its most fundamental level, it's similar to Tetris 99. Both games have you playing against a large number of opponents, and both have you sending obstacles to other players whilst trying to survive until you're the last one standing. They both even share the same presentation style and opponent targeting system. It's clear we're talking about two games from the same series by the same developer here. That said, we've seen multiplayer Tetris just God knows how many times before, and 99-player Tetris was a fairly straightforward fit. You could have probably done a decent job of imagining how Tetris 99 played before getting your hands on it for the first time. Turning the NES-era Super Mario Bros., which even in two-player mode was a strictly one-time affair, into a massively multiplayer competitive battle is perhaps a bit trickier to immediately picture. And yes, some of the NES games did have multiplayer, but you took it in turns. It doesn't count. Here's how it all works. All 35 players start off on the same stage with 35 seconds on the timer. Every time you defeat an enemy, two things happen. You'll add a few extra seconds to your timer, and you'll send that enemy over to an opponent's screen to make life a little bit trickier for them. The aim is to keep making your way through the random stages and keeping your timer topped up until every other player either dies or runs out of time. It's a simple concept on paper and is easy to learn in practice as well. It only takes a couple of games before you start getting the hang of things and inevitably start planning strategies. For example, collecting coins may initially seem like a bit of a waste of time because it uses up the time that you have, which you should be spending surely on just getting through the levels and staying alive, but once your coin tally passes 20, you can trigger a little roulette that randomly gives you one of 4 power-ups: a super mushroom, a fire flower, a star, or a power block, any of which is going to be tremendously useful. And yes, you can get a super mushroom even when you have a fire flower, but it's okay because if you pick up Superfluous Power-Ups, you get an additional 15 seconds. Interestingly, the game shares one other quirk with Tetris 99 in that it may actually be beneficial to find yourself on the back foot. In Tetris 99, when opponents start stacking blocks on your screen, they invariably continue to leave a gap in the same place, meaning before long you'll have a stack with a single column of open space. Let that stack get high enough and you can just drop a bunch of L-shaped pieces down there to rack up some serious Tetrises and, unsurprisingly, devastate someone else's game. And it's a similar situation here, or we wouldn't be talking about it now, would we? If you find yourself on the receiving end of a barrage of enemies, if you're good enough, it could actually be a blessing in disguise. Not only can a fire flower or a star make it easy to absolutely plow through them all and send them back to your opponents, but if you can put together a combo, the number of seconds added to your timer will increase with each hit, with a natural ceiling. Bounce off a bunch of enemies without touching the ground, and the physics have been adjusted to be a little bit more like Mario 3 here, or just kick a Koopa Troopa shell into a sea of the sods, and your time limit will rocket up. As such, it arguably pays to be targeted by others. All of this together makes Super Mario Bros. Feel more fun than it has done in years. The most satisfying elements of the original were when you were able to take out enemies with some well-timed fireballs, booted a Koopa Troopa through a horde of Goombas, and used a star to plow through baddies like they were made of soup. When Super Mario Bros. 35 has at its most manic and throwing countless extra enemies at you, these 3 actions in particular are dialed up to 11, essentially just turning what was originally a game into just a flat-out endorphin factory. It can take a little bit of time to feel like any progress is being made though, especially if you're a Super Mario Bros. Devotee who's been playing the game for decades. For the first few hours, you'll find yourself playing the same levels over and over and over and over again, facing little more than Goombas and Koopa Troopers. The whole thing might feel quite repetitive after a while, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that there's not much more to it than that. The other consequence of this is that sometimes battles can get fairly long, especially if you're a Super Mario Bros. Expert and you find yourself in a group with 1 or 2 others who also don't have a habit of falling down a bloomin' pit. Whereas you can brute force someone's screen to the top in Tetris 99 and force even the best players out fairly quickly, here it's not uncommon to see a lengthy back and forth between the last 2 or 3 players as they run through an endless series of levels, sending enemies forwards and getting more back until finally one of you just makes a mistake. The timer does eventually start counting down quicker and quicker, so it doesn't go on forever, but there can be some fairly epic, if slightly repetitive battles. As you continue to level up and reach stages from later on in the game, however, things start to get considerably more interesting. When you start encountering the likes of Hammer Brothers and Spinies and start sending those over instead of the usual weaker enemies, there are far more opportunities forever, especially if they don't happen to have a fire flower, which is easily the holy grail of this game. Even enemies that are considered more stage hazards than anything can be sent unfittingly to your opponents, such as piranha plants and even lava bubbles. You're suddenly forced to think more about balancing your time and your coin counter, as well as play the levels that you've no doubt played dozens of times before, without your rhythm being thrown off to the point that you fall down a bottomless pit. As a result, those repetitive just hurry up and die moments against the last couple of opponents finally start to feel like you're having a proper impact. Sending a bunch of easy enemies over ultimately makes you start thinking, this person I'm playing is no amateur. I'm just gonna get these enemies back in like 3 seconds. But when you start sending the likes of the Hammer Brothers in stages like 3-1 and 5-2, you'll instead start thinking, yeah, let's see you handle that one, buddy boy. Just like in Tetris 99, when you're playing against a lot of people at the start, it's hard to get a real sense that you're impacting any of these games, but when it's only down to the last few, you can tell that a big move is making a big difference, and it feels far more satisfying. In general then, the little lull around hour 2 or 3 aside, we absolutely love how Nintendo and developer Attica have taken a timeless game and made it feel new and exhilarating. The only real problem now is, where do we go from here? Because Nintendo has already stated that the game will be shutting up shop on the 31st of March 2021, which is another one of those quirky "oh Nintendo" decisions that has us wondering whether they've actually got a mischievous Magic Koopa calling the shots at their Kyoto HQ. There is so much potential for this game to end up being like Tetris 99 and become an ever-evolving product that adds new modes over time. You know those limited time events in Tetris 99 when you can earn a new theme based on something like Splatoon 2 or Animal Crossing or Fire Emblem? Well, think of what they could do here if they just decide to give the game a little bit more time. And it's not like it hasn't been done before. Remember all the skins you could give Mario in the original Super Mario Maker? Why not dig those out again and, say, promote Pikmin 3 Deluxe by running a limited time event where performing well enough lets you unlock an Olimar sprite for Mario? Imagine playing a year or 2 from now after a bunch of these events and seeing the likes of Link, Sonic, Samus, and KK Slider running around the other 34 screens instead of just seeing the same damned Mario sprite all the time. Instead, we have a game that, for now at least, has been given just 6 months left to live. We really hope this is a ploy to get people to think, oh, I'd better hurry up and play it then, fall in love with it, campaign to keep it, and ultimately have Nintendo look like the gallant hero swooping in and calling off the end date, essentially untying the damsel from the train tracks 6 months after it was spotted buying rope. It's not like this is set in stone either. I mean, Jump Rope Challenge recently had its 3-month end date waived, so we just need to keep our fingers crossed and hope that Nintendo sees sense and keeps this genuinely brilliant multiplayer game alive. Super Mario Bros. 35 gives Nintendo's most iconic game a jolt of life, and it is massively welcome. Its matches could do with being maybe a little bit shorter, and it's difficult to see whether it's actually going to have changed a few months down the line, but it says so much about the quality of the experience that the biggest problem that we have is that come April 2021, it's not going to exist anymore. You've reached the end of the video. That's right, it's time for Alex's personal thoughts, and well, I've already done a video talking about my personal thoughts briefly. That video was originally way longer. I had to trim it down pretty severely. You weren't missing much. I was just running my mouth. I was focusing too much on the game. But I've got to say, I absolutely love this game. I love it to pieces. I think it is such a wonderful, original, tactical, well thought out way of implementing the game in a multiplayer sense. And it almost feels like it shouldn't work, and what's more, it works on the worst internet connection you could possibly imagine within reason. I mean, I was uploading a video which usually kills my internet because it takes up all my bandwidth, and yet I was still able to get a decent game, which was bonkers. And then I tried it on my phone. My phone's bloomin' Wi-Fi hotspot. No issues. I'm not recommending you doing that. I'm just saying I did it and it works, and that's crazy. I can't really see Nintendo not, like, cancelling the end date for this, because come on. It's so good. It's so good. You can't take it away from us, Nintendo. You can't. It's gonna... Honestly, I enjoy this more than Tetris 99 by quite a wide margin. I love Tetris 99, don't get me wrong, but I find Tetris 99 to be amazingly good fun, but I grew up with platformers. You know, I played Tetris when I was younger as well, but I feel like I've got a little bit more control in this game. It doesn't feel like it's being ripped away from me. If there's a big series of enemies, I can get through it if I'm clever enough. But with Tetris 99, if I get enough blocks sent to me, I just, you know, there's not much I can do. I don't know, just a personal thing. Yeah, this game, my great goggly goodness, this game.